welcome all of you, and also offer our thanks to Debbie, who is our presenter today. Debbie is a very seasoned martial arts practitioner as well as a teacher in the Olympia area for a long time. My name is Leung. I'm here for the Asian Pacific Islanders Coalition South Puget Sound chapter. We are very honored and pleased to have Debbie doing this presentation today. Thank you so much again for all of you who are joining us. And now I'm going to go ahead and ask Debbie to share a little bit about herself, and then she will start her presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. And thank you all so much, and Brian too helped to get this together for us, for all of us, and for giving me this time to share this information. As Lynn said, I've been a martial artist for a long time, and she shared some of my qualifications about that on the email. And I do have a studio downtown where I teach Qigong and Tai Chi to the community. I've been doing that for a long time. But before I did, as I started my martial arts path, and before I started teaching Qigong and Tai Chi, I worked with women primarily back in the 70s and 80s about self-defense, seeing a need for women to learn about, and children to learn about self-defense, defending ourselves against violence against women. And as I was a part of a group, and we were learning martial arts, and we're also involved in learning more about violence against women and working with the rape relief domestic violence shelters in town, and which became Safe Place, that we realized that the whole idea about what self-defense is actually really very different from what martial arts is. And so we came up with a new way, a different way of looking at self-defense that, for lack of a better term, we called it empowerment self-defense. But if you all have a better name for it, please tell me. Because just using the term self-defense, people still really think about, we're going to be punching and kicking. And what I'm going to talk about is really much broader than that. It's about how we can feel more safe in a time where there's a lot of stuff going on to make us not feel safe. And I'm grateful to see a lot of political organizing happening right now, a lot of people making statements against anti-Asian hate, and that's really great. But what I'm seeing that's a lack of is a dealing with us as a community, as Asians, dealing with our own fears and emotions and stress as a result of what's going on. So I want to encourage people to seek counselors and therapists who can help about that. But what I also want to do is to help us feel more empowered in this environment by thinking about options that we would want to choose when confronted with a whole range of anti-Asian racist violence. So just saying this makes me feel anxious. And so what I want us to do is I want to just share just a real quick little technique that might help. And it's called 3 breaths. Okay, because a lot of times when we feel anxious, when we feel fear, what happens is we get stuck. Our body is stuck, our breathing is stuck, our energy is stuck, our chi is stuck. And what's amazing is that when we take big, deep breaths, we can get all that moving again. Our brain needs energy, needs oxygen in order for us to think and to be able to make decisions. Okay, so I'd like for us all to take some big deep breaths. So if you want to, you can stand up or you can just sit where you are. I'm going to stand and stand square on your feet. Take a deep breath. Reach out with your arms. Bring to you all the good, positive energy that's around you, from the people that you love, from nature, from the sky, from the trees. Bring it into your body through your inhale. And as you exhale, let it fill your entire body, from your head to your chest, through your abdomen, your hips, through your legs, all the way down through your feet. And we're going to do that 2 more times. Take a big inhale, reach out, bring to you what you want to have in your body, in your life. And then as you exhale, relax and let it fill your entire body. Exhale. And again, inhale and exhale. Relax, relax. Good. So anytime we feel shaky, scared, anxious, doing some breaths can be really helpful. And if we're in a place where moving our arms really big like that doesn't work, just pretend. How are we doing? I hope that helps us feel a little better and a little more comfortable. Okay, good. So while I go over what we're going to do today, I would like for all of you to think about specific situations, topics, or fears that you would like to have discussed during this workshop. So I make sure that I cover as much of what your concerns are. And if you can type that down in the chat, that would be really fabulous. So what we're going to be doing today is I'm going to go over the basics of what empowerment self-defense is all about. I'm going to take a look at your suggestions on chat and make sure I get them covered. And we're going to talk about what different kinds of self-defense options there are and go into a little bit more detail about just a few, like body posture, verbal assertiveness, and maybe a little bit on escape, basic strategy. And then we're going to spend a bunch of time doing safety planning, because that's what I think is really, really important. And at any time you have questions, feel free to raise your hand. Chat has a raise your hand, or Zoom has a raise your hand function. You can use that, and then I'll see it on the screen and I can call on you. You can even just butt in. There's not really that many people, so that can happen. Or you can write it on chat, and I hope I can keep track of all that. And maybe if Lynn, if you see questions that I don't see that are on chat, you can like poke me.
Sure, I will do that. Thanks.
So everybody write on your chat what it is that you'd like to see covered today. What specific concerns that you have that you want to make sure that we talk about. Okay, so while you do that, you think and you type on your chat. I am going to open my screen, do a screen share that has a list of what the basics are regarding empowerment self-defense. You know a little bit more about where I'm coming from. There we go. Can you see it? It's a lot of words, which is why I wanted to have it up on the screen so that you can have a chance to look at it and digest it a little bit. Okay, so the goal of this workshop is to empower all of us and other BIPOC folks to be able to proudly live our lives. A lot of times self-defense is about this is what you should do, this is what you should not do, and it makes us feel very constrained. And I believe that self-defense should empower us and give us freedom to live our lives in safety. Okay, so that's the goal. And here are the little pieces. Self-defense is about making choices about what you want to do in difficult situations. So I'm not going to tell you what to do. Okay, this is about you making choices. The purpose of a self-defense class is to extend the range of options from which a person can choose. So a lot of times we come in thinking, well, I can do this and this, and then we're kind of stuck. Hopefully, when we leave this class, you'll have a list of things this long that you can choose from. And situations, like self-defense situations, cover a huge range. They can include situations that make us uncomfortable, including microaggressions, to verbal abuse and physical violence. So it ranges, so there's a whole range of situations that we don't want to be in and that we want to figure out how to deal with. There's no one right way to respond to any situation. Any option we can think of that's been any option that we can think of has most likely been used successfully by someone at some time. And what might feel appropriate for one person may not feel appropriate for another. Okay, so a lot of times we think, oh, I'd like to do that. I wonder if that would work. And what I'm saying here is probably somebody has used it at some time and it worked for them. Okay? But just because one person wants to use a certain makes a certain choice in their situation doesn't necessarily mean that everybody else will feel comfortable making that same choice. We all have to make choices for ourselves based on how we feel and who we are at any given situation. So options, self-defense options can cover a huge range. They include prevention, avoidance, deterrence, escape, survival. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about each of those different categories because I know some of them can sound a little bit the same. Then we all make choices based on what we feel we are able to do at the moment. And that includes using our intuition, taking into account our emotional and mental state, as well as facts and skills. And doing nothing is also an option. Another thing that's important for us to remember is that violence against us is never our fault. The blame for violence rests on the aggressor no matter what options we choose in the situations we're in. Lastly, we always do the best we can in the situations that we are in. And I know sometimes that's hard. We're in our situations. We like to get down on ourselves, but hey, we always do the best we can. Okay? Last few things, if you want a little bit more discussion about these ideas, I have a website here that you're welcome to go visit. Also, a long time ago, I wrote a book. And it's called Self-Defense, The Womanly Art of Self-Care, Intuition, and Choice. I wrote it a long time ago. Unfortunately, we still can use this information. Anybody who would like a copy of it, I have many, many copies, and I'm totally willing to give it to anybody just based on donation, or I'm even willing to give them away. So if you're interested in a copy, You can write, you can let me know on chat. You can email Lynn, you can email me through this website, any of those options, and we'll figure out a way to get the book to you. Okay, so back to this. So let me see if any of you have shared some things that you would like to see us do.
Do you want me to share what is written in the chat there, Debbie?
No, I'm looking at it right now.
Oh, you are looking at it? Okay.
Yeah. Uh-oh. Okay, so there's de-escalation, verbal altercations, weapons. Okay. So has everybody gotten what they need from this screen share? And I'm going to take it off. Okay, so you can take
Debbie, there is a chat message. I don't know if you saw that or not. Somebody is asking whether or not you can send that document. You just share to them by email. If people write down their email addresses in the chat field here, some of you already did that, but for those who didn't do that, if you can just write that down, I can collect all of those email, and then if Debbie, you are willing to share that document, I can email those to them.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So say get your email and that you would like a copy of this.
Okay.
And also if you're interested in a copy of my book.
Yes. Thank you.
This is what the book looks like. And there's pictures of me a long time ago. Anyway, okay. Any questions about what I just brought up about basics of empowerment self-defense? Okay, then we're going to move on. I want to talk about those 5 categories of self-defense options. So prevention was the first one. And a lot of prevention is about having good information. It's even before the avoidance part. To me, prevention is about having good information and planning ahead of time. To me, this is where the safety planning comes in. And we'll spend more time about that on the end of the workshop. But one of the things that one of the things about this kind of violence that we're talking about is that people are being targeted who are not expected to fight back. Okay, so that's why there's so much violence against women, because women are looked at in society as being weak, and we don't grow up with fighting skills. And so we're kind of expected to give in. And you'll notice a lot of the anti-Asian violence has very sadly been happening to our elderly folks. And that's kind of a thing like that too, is that they are looked at as weak and frail and not able to fight back. But there are also some fabulous stories about our grandmas who did fight back. And unfortunately, I know the story of one, and she's very traumatized by it as a result, which is a natural response to this kind of situation. The hope is that if we ended up in a situation like that and we fought back like her and we've thought about it a little bit because we've been in a workshop like this and we've done a little safety planning, but it might still happen and we fight back and we fight back as successfully as she did, that maybe because we've talked about it some and because we've talked about these empowerment, self-defense ideas, that it's never all our fault and that we always do the best that we could, that the trauma that we experience afterwards maybe would be a little less. That's what I hope. And the thing about self-defense is that if you look at self-defense in the large general term, in terms of how we deal with all the situations in our lives that bug us, and even the big ones, like we defend ourselves successfully all the time. Okay, we do it all the time. And we can even defend ourselves successfully, and we do, against some of the scariest situations that we think about. Okay? And so a big part of prevention that I want us to talk about, we'll talk about more toward the end, is about safety planning, covering all of these categories of self-defense options and talking about it with our friends and families and for ourselves as well. Avoidance is another self-defense category, and that's about identifying situations and people and possible assailants. How do we identify situations and assailants? A lot of times it's with through our intuition. Somebody makes us feel really uncomfortable. We don't like the way they looked at us. A lot of times we are taught to not pay attention to that, but especially in this environment we're in right now, if we feel that, we can take action about it based on whatever kinds of choices we want to make in the particular situation. And we also may actually know people, who have said racist things to us, or we know who are, prone to that kind of talk and action. And we then we can make safety plans about that. Okay, how do we want to stay away from them? Maybe we can't stay away from them. So if we have to deal with them, what do we want to say? What do we want to do? What are all the things that we can possibly do to feel safe and be safe in those situations? Deterrence is about you're in the situation and how to keep it from escalating. And a lot of that is about body posture and verbal and using our words. And so I want to talk a little bit more about that later. So that's prevention, avoidance, deterrence. That's 3. 4th is escape. That's when it's like things are coming down. I was going to use stronger language, but I won't. And we need to get out quick. Lots of different options we can use in that situation. And that's where physical fighting might come in. And we don't have time for a lot of that, but the basic strategy for that, you all know. And we'll talk about that a little bit there. Then the last thing is about survival. Surviving is a self-defense option. What we need to do for that is to identify who we want to tell and how we want to get support, and to make a list. In case the first person you go to for support, or the first institution or organization you go to for support, you don't get the kind of support that you want and need. So thinking about a list can be really helpful. And a big part of survival is knowing that you did the right thing and that you did the best in the situation that you're in. Questions, comments? Okay, is this stuff getting really heavy? Do we need to do 3 breaths again? Let's do it anyway. Okay? So inhale, exhale. Let it all go. Inhale through every pore and cell in your body. Fill your entire body with good, clean energy and oxygen. And exhale, relax and release. One more time. Inhale and exhale. And shake it out if you need to. Yeah, good. Okay, so when we talk about deterrence, I want to talk a little bit about body posture and some verbal assertiveness techniques. Because those are kind of some skills that maybe we could use all the time. Okay, so like I said in prevention, is that people are usually targeted because they look like, because they're not expected to fight back, or they look like they wouldn't, okay? And so part of that, to counter that, is to have a strong, confident body posture. Now, one of the things is you might not feel strong and confident at the time. It doesn't matter. It just matters what it looks like on the outside. Okay, so however you want to do it, I'll give you some tips, but however it is that you want to look tough and strong, that can work. Okay? But there are some physical elements. So like if we stand and we let the shoulders slump and we kind of look down and maybe stand only on one foot and have kind of a weak high voice, it kind of looks not that strong and confident. Yeah? So these are physical things. How's your shoulders? How's your spine? Where's your weight? On one foot or both feet or on the other? Where do we look? And the quality of our voice. These are all things that we can control, that we can that we can choose to use and change in the situation because we think that it might work. Okay, and to portray strength and confidence in a situation. So how to counter that? The confident body posture is starting from the feet. You're going to stand 50-50 on your feet, your weight 50-50, so you're square on both feet. You're going to have your hips right over your ankles, your shoulders over your hips. Your shoulders are relaxed, your arms are hanging at your side, your head is up, and you use eye contact. Those are all kind of Western, socially social, physical cues for confidence in the body. And it's kind of like if you look at me and if I'm kind of standing and I'm like this, versus if I'm standing like this and I'm talking like this, you're more apt to listen to me as a workshop instructor when I stand like this and I talk like this, right? Than if I stood like this and tried to talk about self-defense. So these are all physical things that you can do. Where is your weight? Where are your shoulders? Where is your head? And when looking at somebody's eyes is uncomfortable, you can just look at their forehead, or you can look off to the side of their eyes and you can't tell. Okay? And we may be really nervous and scared and fearful inside, and our pits are sweating, but it's what the potential assailant on the outside is seeing that can make the difference. Okay, so this is a choice we can make in terms of how we hold our bodies, and it's something that we can do and practice in a lot of different situations. Right? It's something you can practice at work. It's something you can practice at school. It's something you can practice with anybody who's giving you a hard time. Stand up tall, drop those shoulders, look at them in the eye, and play with different kinds of voices. So I always say a lot of self-defense is about acting. And sometimes also the more that we hold our bodies in a certain way, carry our voices in a certain way, then maybe we actually might start to become more confident. If that's what we want to be. Okay. In terms of verbal assertiveness, this is another technique that we can use. It's a little dated, the name of the technique, but it's called the broken record technique. Like a scratch in a record, it goes over and over, it repeats. It's really annoying. Okay? We can do that too. The most common thing I hear a lot of times is, I've already told him 3 times. Well, tell him another 20 times. The exact same thing. Okay? It's totally okay. Okay, so part of safety planning is when we see somebody that that makes us uncomfortable, what do we want to say? Let's say it's somebody who makes us really feel uncomfortable. We really don't want to have him near. We don't want to talk to him right now. I need you to go away. Okay, and he says, blah, 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 blah. I need you to go away. But blah, 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 blah. You can even answer, okay, but I need you to go away. You don't have to answer his questions. He can be saying stuff. I need you to go away. And the voice can even start to get a little bit more stronger. I need you to go away. Yeah, you just play with your voice. You can yell. I need you. I feel weird doing this in front of the computer. But you can yell, same thing. Then you can also make it really soft. I need you to go away. Repeat it over and over and over again. When I'm in a self-defense class, a longer class, we actually role play this, so you can get a sense of what it feels like to be on the other side when somebody's just saying the same thing over and over again. And those of us who are not, because we're not violent types, after the person says it 3 times, we go, okay. And the thing is, when you know that somebody is saying it that many times and they keep going at you, it's like, okay, this person is really no good. Okay, and they deserve to be told again and again and again. Okay, so that's one of the things that I find a lot. We say we've already told them, tell them again and again. You can do this broken record technique really politely, or we can do it very strongly. That's all under our control and choices that we make. Let's see. So so that was the third one, deterrence. Fourth one's escape. So escape is like, okay, we're in it. It's escalating. It's escalated. What can we do? Yelling is fabulous. Okay, really loud. We can all do it, and it's not expected, especially if we keep the voice really low and really loud and stand up really strong. And you can yell whatever you want. That's part of safety planning, deciding what it is you want to yell. And if we were all together in a class, we wouldn't feel so silly. And then we would practice yelling all together. It's really fun and it's really powerful. I'm not going to make us all yell at our computers because it seems kind of weird. And who knows what's going on around us in our house. I don't even want to do it in my house. But there are a lot of times that we do yell all the time. I yell at my dog to come back. Where did that dog go? Come home. Okay? So when I talk about when you yell at your dog or your kid or whatever, dinner time. Think about how that could be a yell that you might also be using in self-defense. You can also practice yelling in your car, practice yelling in the shower. Lots of times that we can practice yelling. And yelling attracts attention. And if attracting attention is something that we want to do, yelling is very effective. And the thing is, a lot of times, people who are being nasty don't want to be called out. And so yelling does that. And they often like, okay, I'm leaving. Okay, because also they don't want to get caught. Another part, you can be in a situation and you can use the broken record technique I just talked about very forcefully, repeating some words that perhaps we thought about ahead of time, repeating it over and over again. People have also told amazing stories, and you can lie. Like for physical attacks, well, nowadays you could say you got COVID, right? And I used to have a self-defense instructor who perfected the act of pretending to have a not a stroke, a seizure. I had to say, show me how you do. What are you talking about? And she just starts doing this thing with her eyes and her body and foaming at her mouth. It's like, oh my God, okay, that works. So see what I'm saying? Anything you can think of, even the weirdest things, people have done it at some time and have done it successfully. If you think you're in the situation you're in that it would work for you, then go for it. Even in the most extreme situations. If you get to a place where you feel like you need to physically fight back, there's a really basic fighting strategy. Use your strong places against their weak places. And usually when I say that, everybody knows exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so the weak places, eyes, nose, throat, groin for men, and knees. Okay, so any way you can to poke an eye. Okay, and I know these are choices, options. They're gross. But these are options for if you feel like this is an option that you need to do. Okay, I'm not telling anybody that you have to do these, but I'm just telling you these are options. Okay, that if we get to a place where we feel like we need to physically fight back, we want to physically hurt them and stop them, then we want to strike in these places. Eyes, nose, you just smack the nose straight into the face. It bleeds a lot, it hurts a lot. They are attending to themselves. Throat, okay, if you just press lightly, you can feel your the oxygen, that you can't breathe. It feels really horrible. And we all know that, you strike somebody, you choking is like very deadly. And the groin is striking up between the legs, and the men will fall. Knees, a lot of people have weak knees anyways, so you want to strike from the front or the side and less from the back. But from the front, the side, doesn't take very much pressure at all to break a knee. Okay, strong places we have hands, we have fingers, we have elbows, we have knees, and we have feet. Think about feet just stomping. Okay, no fancy kicks, no fancy martial arts. Just try to get these strong places into one of these 5 targets, 5 weak places. That's the basic strategy for physical self-defense. And if you're sitting, if you're laying down, any of those places, there's always a strong place on your body that can hit a weak place on the other person's body. And then you can use stuff that's around you. Okay, like the grandma that got a 2x4 and smacked right into the guy's face, and his whole face was bleeding. And he was on a stretcher, and she was standing. Okay, so any of those kinds of things. So that is about physical self-defense. Questions, comments? Okay, so let me go through some of these situations on chat. So I see one that's about high school, what high school students can use at school. So a lot of body posture, right? Words. Also, if things are happening, who would you tell? Can you have friends with you? Make a note which authority figures at the school will support you. Maybe if you are aware of somebody who might be wanting to hurt you, maybe talking with some of those authority figures at school, teachers, whoever, ahead of time, so that you know that you have their support and the kind of support that you want. What are some other ideas for strategies for high school students? Chat or unmute yourself. No? Lynn, are you saying something? You're muted.
Oh, I'm sorry. I should unmute myself. I was going to say, if people do have some kind of weapon, right?
Uh-huh.
Sometimes we are going to have to think about how we wanted to do it so we can, not get hurt ourselves. Do you have any suggestions what we may be able to do with that kind of situation?
Yeah. So part of it depends on what kind of weapon. In general, weapons are used to threaten us rather than actually to hurt us. Even with all the gun violence that we're seeing on TV or in the news, I don't watch TV. I don't know why I said that. Um, all, even that is very few compared to all the racist violence that we experience regularly and any other kind of violence we might also experience. Okay? The thing that's the most scary, I think, is especially with all the gun violence that we are hearing on the news, is confronting that kind of a situation. That kind of situation is a person with a gun who's intent on hurting people. In that case, you just gotta hit the ground and run or whatever, okay, and to try to get away. However, the most common situation of a person facing a gun or any other weapon is that weapon is used to intimidate us. The person using it is expecting us not to react out of fear. And I've heard so many stories of women confronted with guns and knives who went for it. Their intuition told them, or whatever, that they needed to act. And sometimes it was telling crazy stories. Sometimes it's saying, my super fighter husband, who's is a what are those kind of those an MMA fighter, professional, going to be home any minute. You don't want to see him, and they leave. You may not know you may not know anybody like that. But putting that idea that maybe something like that may happen puts you at an advantage the moment they think, uh-oh, I wonder if that's true. Then you have the advantage and they're at that weak point right at that moment. And that's when, if you feel like you need to do some physical techniques to eyes, nose, throat, groin, knees, that you probably could get something in, because right then he's thinking, uh-oh, really? And that's when you can go in. Even with guns, people have talked their way out of it. People have talked their way out of it. They've told stories. People have physically fought. People have run. People have locked themselves in the bathroom, run at, and climbed out of windows. People have led their assailant to somewhere where the person would be safe and the assailant would not be. All kinds of things, all kinds of stories. So it's really helpful, though, to know that except in the situation, which is really rare, where the person pulls out a weapon with the intent to hurt someone, that usually it's because they're doing it to try to intimidate us. And when that's the case, we can use our intuition and the whole range of options that we can think of to deal with the situation. And just know that a lot of people have gotten out of those kinds of situations. And maybe, maybe you get a little hurt, but the thing is they're alive to tell the story later. Okay. Okay, let's see. There's more. Uh-oh. What are some other chat things? De-escalation when you are targeted versus someone else is targeted. What is a good de-escalation when you yourself are targeted? Oh, so I'm being targeted. How can I de-escalate that versus if someone is that? I guess that's what the question is. So I'm not a big expert on de-escalation, but some of the techniques that people have used is to match them where they're at. So if the person's really hyped up, you kind of be that way, and then as you can then control it and bring it down, they'll often match you. But again, I'm still just going to go back with the whole thing about using your intuition, and that anything that you can think of that might work in that situation might work for you, and try it. Okay, another little factoid that I haven't mentioned yet is that the more different options you try, the greater the chances you have of succeeding. So if one thing doesn't work, try something else. And if that doesn't work, try something else. And if that works sort of, keep going with it, and maybe like move it or change it a little bit as you try to keep working at it.
I see another book that is being suggested by one of our participants here. That's a really good book, The Third Harmony, Nonviolence, and the Story of Human Nature.
Okay, so any other questions, comments before we talk more about safety planning? One new message. Okay, what if you see someone else being verbally or physically harassed? We have a name for that. It's called bystander intervention. I'm going to go on a workshop on that next week. But some of the things that people have done, okay, again, these are all options that we hear about, right? Nowadays, we have cell phones. Recording what's going on is really powerful. The most important thing is to stay safe. Do whatever is for us to do what we feel that we can do to stay safe. Maybe that's videoing, okay, with our phones. What I've had people do, and the stories I've heard other people, is that they go up to the person who is being harassed and pretend that you're their friend and say, "Hi, how are you? I haven't seen you for a long time. You want to go down the street and get a coffee?" And then just start going, doing it. That takes a lot of guts, but people have done it and it's worked. And then sometimes people just get right in there and confronted the harasser. Sometimes that works. Yeah, again, it's a choice. It's based on intuition whether or not that you think that will work, whether that's something that each of us wants to do. Another thing that's worked too is that, especially if there are a lot of people around, and you see somebody being harassed, to go and just stand with them and try to get other people to just stand with them. So there are a bunch of options for dealing with that. And there are groups that are specializing in doing workshops on bystander intervention. And I'm going to check them out and put them on my self-defense website that I showed on that screen share. It's not there yet, but soon. Good questions. Anybody else? Any more questions?
Debbie, I actually just wanted to share that we actually have it on our APIC South Puget Sound site already for the 5Ds for the bystanders training, which are distract, delegate, document, delay, and direct. We have several links about various resources that people are welcome to check it out. If you want to, I can go ahead and put that on the chat field so people can go to our website to look. Okay?
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, so safety planning. Back to prevention. This is something that I feel is really important that we all need to do for ourselves, and with our families and with our friends. Okay, this is kind of like getting together with everybody and having the talk. Okay, what kind of situations are we feeling uncomfortable with? And what kinds of situations might happen? And what do we want to do in those situations? And how can we prevent and avoid them? Okay, so a lot of it is listing what those situations are. And also, listing what those situations are. From situations that make us feel uncomfortable, to microaggressions, to verbal situations, to physically violent situations, okay? And with yourself, with your family, with your friends, talking about when might those situations actually happen? How might we be able to avoid them? How might we be able to de-escalate it if we started to see it happening? Like, what could we say? Where could we go? Who might we go to for help? Who might come and help us? And then if the situation starts to happen, again, same things. What do we want to do? What do we want to say? Who do we want to go? How can we attract help? Who do we want that help to be? How do we get support afterwards? So thinking through the situations that are uncomfortable for us, that are scary, that we have fear about, and thinking through the whole range of options from prevention to avoidance, through deterrence, through escape and survival. All the different options that we would be willing to use in those kinds of situations. And how we can help each other, how we can use each other to help us. And that's hard work for all of us. But I think that once we actually do some of that work, really think through what it is that we want to say, and then maybe even practice it with each other. Practice some yelling. Practice what you're going to say. I don't like the way you're talking to me. Just get used to saying it. Thinking about what kind of stories you want to tell. Because you know, if I'm trying to, if I'm being confronted by somebody and I want to tell them that some super scary person is going to come that they don't want to meet, I don't want to be fumbling over my words about what kind of martial artist he is. But on the other hand, we can do all the safety planning in the world and remember that when the situation actually comes down, we may forget that and come up with a totally different story, and that's totally okay. And we might end up just doing something else. I always remember hearing stories about people when people talk and they say, so this and this happened, and I don't know where it came from, but I said, and they told us this fabulous story, and they were able to get away, and it was great. And so a lot of times when we go through these, I feel that when we do this kind of safety planning, it'll help us feel a little bit more comfort. I hope that will give us a little bit more comfort, having thought through exactly what we might want to say, how finding the people that will be supportive for us, thinking through what kind of help we want to get in a situation, before a situation, in a situation, after a situation. Practicing that so it can become more natural. But then also giving us permission that when we're in a situation, it's going to be hard and it's going to be scary. And the perfect words might not come out. And that's totally okay. Because we always do the best we can in the situations that we're in. Okay, and we're going to make whatever choices we are in that situation. And nobody else can tell us that we should have done something different because they were not in that situation and they were not you. Okay, questions, comments? Any other kinds of situations you'd like or questions that you like covered? I know I'm being pretty general because I like to hear from you, but we're not, that's hard on Zoom. Any last thoughts?
So Debbie, I was just wondering if you don't mind, I also have some questions too. I think that sometimes people may try to, just kind of hit on random, targets. They may not necessarily select a particular person. They just kind of see you as Asian, right? And then they will just try to target you. So this kind of situation has been found already in a few of those incidences that happen around this area, as well as Tacoma and Seattle. So I was just wondering, if we are actually alone, do you have some suggestions that people can do when they are all alone? Besides yelling, if somebody is trying to attack you, is there any other things that people may be able to do? Like I'm always carrying an umbrella now, just so I will have something that I can use. Do you have anything else that you can suggest? That's one thing I noticed that helped me feel more safer.
Okay, good, good. What do other people do that feels safe to help you feel safer?
Carry a pepper spray.
Okay, pepper spray is good. One thing about pepper spray, practice. Because there's a little bit trick to that. You have to make sure you take the safety thing off and you make sure it's aimed the right way. So you might want to practice it once. But yeah, that works good. What else?
Got
Thank
a
you.
stun gun,
Oh, wow.
500 volts. Keep it in my pocket, especially at
Okay.
night.
Okay. Other ideas? So yelling, like Lynn said, yelling is always good. Now the thing is, we're always the most afraid when we're alone. So other things are ways to attract attention and attract attention so that we aren't alone. And yelling is one of those things. If you're somewhere where there are houses available or businesses, go to a business, go to a house, knock on the doors, okay, to involve other people. That's another idea. If you're in the street like downtown, there's no reason why we have to stay on the sidewalk when we're being threatened. Get out in the middle of the street, scream and yell. Get in your car, honk your horn. A lot of the things that we would never do normally, but that would draw a lot of attention. Other ideas? Is this helping? Is this helping you, Lynn?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, that's a good idea. I haven't tried a stun gun before. I was going to say that's very interesting. Where do you buy that, Brian? Do you mind if I ask?
Amazon.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
oh my gosh.
I mean, I got the real thing too, but I'd prefer not to bring that along.
Okay.
So all
Okay.
weapons, my main thing about weapons is that you practice.
Yeah.
Because the weapons require some skill.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's just knowing how to pull the cap off and pull the safety off and know where to and how to aim it at your target. Okay, good.
Okay.
Any other?
Yeah, I was going to say, if anyone has any question, here's your time to, ask your question. Please feel free to go ahead and unmute yourself. We have roughly about 15 minutes left. So if you do have any questions, feel free to go ahead, either unmute yourself, speak out loud, or you can put it on the chat field. Okay?
Hey, Brian, what do you have? Show us. Huh? What do you have? Huh?
B, what do I have? I got a stun gun. I got bear spray. Someone mentioned pepper gel. That's actually some other folks in the API community have talked to me about weapons here, just because I grew up in Mason County and grew up hunting and around guns. So I if you haven't been around them, it's like Debbie said, I wouldn't like just buy one and not know all about safety and things like that and how to use it. Like I said, those things are kind of like at a last resort. But like I said, I have a stun gun. I've actually bought them for my cousins and others, that I know that they work in and live in more urban environments. So I'd rather they don't have to be this big either. I mean, they make them very small too. I could put these things. I mean, I see them on Amazon. My friend Dean Wong and I kind of share ideas like this all the time, because he lives in the ID, and up in Chinatown, ID area, up in Seattle, and it's. I mean, it's a very big reality, especially Seattle, Tacoma, and Snohomish County, where there have been some very visible incidents of anti-Asian hate. So if people want to collect them, I would prefer we go with the more preventative means that Debbie have discussed during the training than other weapons. I mean, I could show you the handgun I have. I have it right in front of me, but you know, like I said, I grew up in a rural county. I grew up around guns. I used to shoot competitively in high school. So, you know, I mean, let's see if I got it right here.
So I wanna say one thing. Thank
Please
you for
do.
sharing that, Brian, though. Okay, so so I want to say, what I want to say is, it can be fun to talk about all these gadgets and things that we can have, but like I said, it is important then to practice and really know how to use them and be comfortable with them. And also to remember, the reality also is, I think a lot of us here are women, and just us being strong and confident and not giving in will be enough of a deterrent, because most of the assailants are usually men and are looking at us as easy targets. And so if we present ourselves as not easy targets, that can be really successful. But I'm not saying not to use weapons, but just to remember that those are choices for each of us to make individually, and to recognize the consequences of using them. Also with weapons, as much as that an assailant using a weapon is usually to intimidate us, we do not want to use a weapon to intimidate them, because that's actually a weakness. When we carry a weapon, we need to be able to know that we have the intent and the ability to use it effectively. Okay? But I always want to emphasize that using a weapon of any kind is a choice. It's a valid option. Some of us will want to use that option, some of us will not. Okay? And that's totally okay. And in reference to the thing that as women, that us just standing up will be a deterrence, but there's a difference with men. Because assailants are usually men, they will usually, unless they're targeting like an elderly man, usually if they target another man, they're looking for a fight. So that's a real different strategy than what it is for women. And that's a whole nother topic.
Hey, Debbie,
Yes.
I'm Toby, and I go fly fishing, and usually I'm on my own. And I think one of the things I try to be is really vigilant. You know, you're right about that gut feeling. There's a couple of places I just won't go by myself.
Mm-hmm.
Or if I'm on the water, I wait until the boat launch is empty of other people, and then I bring my little floating thing. But it's, you know, it's an icky feeling to have that, hey, I enjoy the outdoors as much as anybody else, but I have to be cautious because as a woman and Asian.
Mm-hmm.
So I like the idea of the umbrella though, Lynn. I think I'm going to start carrying one around. Yeah, so yeah, I'm sad. I really am.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you have your fishing pole too. That's a good, that could be a really good weapon as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it is really sad that we always have to be looking after our safety. And I think part of it is after we think about and talk about how we can defend ourselves in different situations, then we can be in those situations and know that we've thought through some of it and that we can do it more comfortably. That's my hope. And remember too, again, when I said, you know, our biggest fear is that we're by ourselves, and a lot of times we are by ourselves, but we can always make up stories that we're not. Okay, because, you know, I always taught self-defense here in Thurston County, and people a lot of times are in the woods or whatever, and we all enjoy being outdoors. And we get confronted when we're by ourselves, and that's one of our biggest fears. But we can always just say, hey, I just saw this big burly guy. He's going to help me. I just saw him. He's just a few. He's really close by, and that can be enough to make a person an assailant think twice. You can even call for him, you know, and that might work.
Thank you so much, Debbie. I was going to say there is another note here by Sandra who said that it would be helpful to have self-defense strategies specific to students who cannot bring weapons to school. Do you have anything you can suggest for students who are going to school? Obviously, we hope that we don't have to do any of this. This is something we are just planning, right? So it still is good for us to pre-plan and, you know, develop some strategies. Do you have anything else to add?
Again, it's like what I said earlier to the other question about high school, is about thinking about who you can go tell, who will be supportive to you, what it is you want to say, how to stand up tall and straight and say directly what it is that you want happen. Think about that ahead of time. Think about what buddies you want to have with you. And then there's all the stuff too that people have thought about before, you know, that people think about, like calling ahead of time to tell people when this is not exactly this. I'm thinking of another option, another type of option, which is like whenever you think where there might be a dangerous situation, of calling somebody like at your home or a friend that if I'm not home by a certain time, do this, that, or the other thing, and engaging other people to help. Okay, but yeah, students cannot bring weapons to school, right? So we want to think about the other things. We want to think about avoidance, identifying situations and identifying the people that you're worried about, okay? And maybe telling people. Deterrence, about using body posture, about using your voice, about using verbal assertiveness. Okay, when it gets really bad, then yelling, getting help, getting the support we want, telling stories, how to get out of that situation. There are lots and lots and lots of options that we can use to, whether it's adults or students in school, at work, on the street, downtown, at home, okay? Because a lot of violence happens at home, but that's, you know, I wanted to focus this more on on racist violence, but a lot of violence happens at home. And actually those kind of situations we can really safety plan about because we know who those people are and we know how it happens. But it's identifying them and making safety plans and finding people who will support us. Okay, so if there isn't anything else, and even if there is, you can continue to ask me and contact me, and we can do more workshops if you want to. Maybe sometime we can do something in person. But just to conclude, I want to remind us all that we always do the best we can in the situations that we're in. And that we always want to support other people in having done the best they could in the situations they're in. Even if they do things that we think we would do otherwise. But whatever they did, whatever we do, is the best we can in the situation. Okay? So thank you so much. It's a tough topic. It's hard to think about. We need to have more conversations. I hope that I give you permission all to talk about it more with others, with your loved ones, and think about for yourself. And use those 3 breaths whenever we feel anxious, and we just need to do that and feel more relaxed and more in our bodies, and to allow our minds to work better. Okay, thank you so much.
Again, thank you so much, Debbie, for sharing all of this information with everyone. And I feel like that I always learn so much every time when I try to touch on this topic. So thank you so much again. And then for all of you who join us, thank you for taking time to share this moment with us. APIC South Puget Sound started doing this monthly workshop, and sometimes we will do a special one like this one, but normally we try to do it on the second Saturday of every month for various cultural workshop. So next month, May 8th, we are going to do Chinese cooking, actually, by our chef, Dan. So feel free to come back to join us again.